this, the meaning of identity becomes a little bit misconstrued. Is our identity what other people see us as, or is identity our innermost thoughts and feelings? We are all complex people made up of so many different factors, such as our heritage, what religion we are, or even our after-school activities. With all these things happening externally, naturally stereotypes arise. And even though these are just a small part of who they are, they come to define us as a whole. When I first thought of stereotypes in literature, I instantly thought of Hester Prynne in The Scarlet Letter. She is judged and branded with an A on her chest, and the society around her refuses to see her as anything different. With this, she starts to lose her identity. Both novels I read deal with this common theme of one's individuality and the struggle against stereotypes. The first book I read was The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. It is the story of a young Latino girl on the verge of becoming a woman. She notices that all the women around her are oppressed and have little control over their own lives. She knows that if she stays on Mango Street, she will never form a true identity and her voice will never be heard. She begins to resent her life and wishes to escape it through her writing. The next book I read was Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. It's the story of the unnamed narrator and his struggle to become more than what other people see him as. He is judged for being African American and is desperate to find an identity other than just the color of his skin. This leads him to start following ideologies that don't really represent him as a whole, and with this, he loses his identity a little bit more. When reading each book, I became more interested in the effects of stereotypes that they can have on one person. I read the study through some research at Yale University that states that stereotypes can do one of two things. It can make you feel more secluded from the rest of the world, which Esperanza feels in The House on Mango Street when she begins to distance herself from her family, or it can make you join groups that don't really represent your beliefs, like an Invisible Man. What I noticed in both these books was that the character's voice was the only real indication of their identity. In a Steve Jobs commencement speech, he says, "Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice." This is relatable to each character, and that what they have to say is vital to who they are, whether other people are listening or not. Looking back on both stories, Esperanza's fear of becoming an oppressed Latina housewife empowers her to become a serious writer. She knows that Mango Street will always be a part of who she is, but she doesn't want it to define who she is. Becoming a serious writer gives her a voice that she never knew she had, and an identity as well. In Invisible Man, the narrator is not ashamed of being African American, but is ashamed of only being seen that way. He feels trapped inside this invisible body and is confused about who he is. He decides he will not reemerge into society until he finds his true identity. This story in particular shows the effects of racial stereotypes can have on an individual. Both these stories showed me how significant stereotypes can be on one's identity. What others see and what society deems accurate isn't always true. We have the power to be who we want to be, and we are the only ones that can truly determine our identity, which is our thoughts and feelings, but most importantly, our voice within.